Welcome to Garden Sanity. I'm Laura, and this morning I wanted to show you the Leucojum. That's what these little flowers are. Sometimes called spring snowflake and sometimes called summer snowflake. Easier to say than Leucojum. Now this variety that I have is called Gravetye Giant, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's on long stems that are about, say, 12 to 14 inches tall. And then they have these beautiful little flowers that look like upside down lampshades. You see how each little petal has a little green dot on it, almost like an oval, that ends up making it look like an upside down Victorian lampshade. Now I'm really lucky this year because the way the weather has been and Mother Nature has been, keeping me guessing. These red Devon daffodils just opened up, and the Leucojum opened up early by about 2 weeks. And so this year, I have them blooming together, which is so darn pretty. Now in between, you see, that's totally Tangerine Geum down there. And while it's starting to grow, and you see a little bit of new growth coming out already, it's hidden by all the Leucojum. And you can see a better shot there of another plant of totally Tangerine Geum. And then what I have in front are these little tiny Muscari bulbs, commonly called Grape Hyacinth. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. There's a reason in bulb catalogs why they'll tell you plant them en masse, as they say. Plant a lot of them. Because I planted these about 3 years ago, and they're still kind of spindly. Now, in the past, rabbits have chomped them a little bit. So far, so good this year. But yeah, they're just kind of little guys. But again, I lucked out this year because, let me back up so you can see it better. I've got the Muscari, the Leucojum, the red Devon daffodils. Behind them, I have the Poeticus Actaea Daffodils, which are about a month early. So pretty. So here's what the bed looks like in mid-April. These are all red Devon daffodils that you see, all the yellow daffodils. They have the pale orange trumpets. As they age, they'll become more red. Absolutely beautiful. And the tete-a-tetes that I had blooming starting in March, this is the remainders of those. You can see one or two little guys down there still blooming. Now I don't ever bother to take off the dried seed heads, dried flower heads. Those just fall off on their own on the tete-a-tetes, which is nice. But with the red Devons and other daffodils, I'll go through, and I did that yesterday on a few of these, is I'll take out and just chop off some of the dead ones. But these ones in front are looking fantastic right now. It's so pretty. They're a taller daffodil. They're about, I'd say, 14 to 16 inches high. And just really stunning. Really easy color. And in this case, they're right next to some of the sedum autumn fire that is starting to kick in and grow. And then behind the knockout rose bush are the Poeticus Actaea. And the yellow flowers, let me show you close up, are little Leo Leopard's Bane. Absolutely adorable, like yellow daisies. Now when I had these in the backyard, which I don't anymore, they were one of the first flowers to bloom in early spring. Here they bloom much later, not sure why. But they're right next to these beautiful, quote-unquote, late blooming daffodils that did bloom late the past couple years. But this year they're early, and that's okay. I think they're gorgeous. Usually when the Actaea daffodils, which these are, the Poeticus Actaea, usually when they bloom, the red Devons are already finished or on their way out. So again, I am really lucky to have them all blooming at the same time this year. And I guess that's a thank you to Mother Nature. Maybe she does know what she's doing sometimes, huh? That is the cinnamon-colored bark of the crepe myrtle tree. So Actaea are absolutely beautiful daffodils. Pure white petals, a very small trumpet, but you can see it's outlined in red in very roughly but very tiny ruffles. Just exquisite. All the daffodils I grow are very weatherproof. I looked that up on purpose so that I can not worry about storms. And then behind the little Leo, you see chocolate chip Ajuga. Absolutely beautiful flowers. I have them going all behind the Fothergilla shrubs. Rabbits do not like Ajuga at all, no matter what variety you get. So these beautiful blue flowers with the chocolate dark green, that's what I'll call it since it's called Ajuga chocolate chip, with those leaves, they protect the Fothergilla, which is just starting to bud out. Really interesting, almost a pastel lime green color to the buds. And that is just starting. But yeah, these flowers are stunning. As they fill in, it'll become a nice little sea of blue in the springtime. And then in the summer, you don't really notice it. And these don't spread as aggressively as some other varieties. The grass you see there is actually the leaves of the crocuses that are done. And then you also see a very special plant. That would be a dandelion. That's got to go. But you can see that the Actaea daffodils I planted all around the tree, except the bulbs were dug up right there. But I know that they'll fill in over time, so I'm not worried about it. Those were dug up about 2 or 3 years ago. Now in the foundation beds, they're finally cleaned up, and the star of the show is still the Candytuft. You can see all the fronds of the tete-a-tete daffodils. So those are all done. The Candytuft is still going strong, and it's going to fill in even more. I mean, you see like this patch, for example, how it's like a sea of white. That's how it all gets. It's a Mr. Bowling Ball Arborvitae, kind of hanging in there in between everything. And I finally trimmed up the maple a little bit, the ornamental maple, removed all the detritus. So now you see the mulch again. And then for the wonderful quote-unquote modern topiary I did for the lavender, I added one from the backyard. So that is from the long bed. I decided that the 2 lavenders that were planted in the backyard in that particular bed, they were near the firelight hydrangea, they're going to get overshadowed by the firelight as it continues growing. So I planted one on each side, and that should make 2 different levels, so to speak, of lavender flowers when they're blooming, so that should look nice, and it should fill in nicely. And then the other bed, same thing. We've got the lavender topiary, quote unquote, and then we've got another lavender that I took from the backyard. This one will be a little bit more to my liking just because of where they're already positioned. In the other bed, the lavender quote unquote topiary, I'm gonna have to stop saying quote unquote, that's a little bit more in the front of the bed. So this is more what I like, is that this will grow almost in the summer, covering the bark of the topiary. And then you can see I have a ton of real estate now. So now that it's all cleaned up and I removed all of the stumps, I can now figure out what else I want to plant here. And there's more Candytuft. But what I want to show you is something special that when you're looking from here, you might not notice, right? Are you just seeing Candytuft? Me too. But let's go down closer. See these little Muscari bulbs? These flowers are so cute. They're a little pale blue on the bottom and then white on top. I just think they're adorable. And when I first planted them, I planted them in between Candytuft plants. But as you can see, over the past couple years, the Candytuft is filled in. And so now, these little guys pop up. You almost don't notice them. I sure didn't. And I'm hoping that they protect, that the Candytuft protects these a little bit more now, because rabbits don't like Candytuft, but they sure do seem to eat Muscari. But isn't that cute? When you stand up, you almost don't even see them. And the last thing I want to show you, this of course is a Japanese Helleri, is I want to show you the Kramer's Red Winter Heath. It's on its last few weeks now, until it'll stop blooming. You can see that there's a lot more dried flowers on it. That's the pale brown you see. And a lot of the bright magenta blooms have now faded to a pale pink. Still very pretty. Bees are still finding their way there. And then the blue star juniper, which now has much more room, not being crowded by the lavender. Behind it are the Cragford daffodils. They're finally blooming. Okay, one more bed. This is the lamppost bed. And as you can see, I've got the red Devons. And then you have, again, Kramer's Red Winter Heath. And this is one that I said I'm going to show you how I cut back some of these dead stems. So that is coming up. I'm going to wait a little bit until it's done with its blooms, but this is still more magenta because it's in a little bit more shade. You can see another one back there. I need to cut off the flower heads, but they still look so pretty. I love that with the daffodils. And again, a bunch of tete-a-tetes. But you can see there's already new growth coming. So that looks really nice. So I'm not going to do much at all with the little lime punch because it is just kind of on the small side still. And then you have another blue star juniper back there, more daffodils. So I just love this time of the year because it is mid-April and I'm transitioning from the early daffodils to the later ones. All the shrubs are getting more color. Things are waking up. It's just very pretty. So thanks for coming along with me, and I'll put on the screen my spring garden tour so you can see even more of all of these beds in the front and the backyard. Happy gardening.